And congratulations, you found us. This is the Children of the Sun radio program, a show focusing on positive energy and positive personal and spiritual growth and transformation from a metaphysical and fifth dimensional perspective. Broadcasting every Friday afternoon, 12:30 to 2:30 Atlantic Standard Time from the beautiful island of St. Croix in the turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea. So get ready to listen to your heart, dance the limits of the imagination with me, your host, Sacred Breath, Ray Bratcher. So welcome everyone. And I want to say a special welcome to my guest today, Katia Boustani. I think you guys all know that here on the show, I focus on interviewing leaders in their field, thought leaders who are contributing positive energy to the world, locally, nationally, internationally, and Katia certainly falls into that last category of being an international leader. She's dedicated her, Katia, if it's okay with you. Well, Katia, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. I'd love, the thought that you're in the Caribbean makes me feel kind of like I'm swimming in blue waters already.
Yep. Look, if it's okay with you, I'm going to just introduce you by reading your bio from your website.
Okay.
So I have an idea of who you are. Katia Boustani has dedicated her life to healing herself, her community, and the world through the breath and love. With over 30 years of experience in the healing arts, she has developed a phenomenal reputation for profound results and ongoing transformation of each individual or group she works with. An international expert in breath mastery and mind mastery, Katia's compassion for humans and her love for nature is her prime motivation, believing in the metamorphosis of the world, one person at a time. In October 2013, Katia was recognized as Rebirthing Breath Master and Master Breathwork Trainer by Leonard Orr himself. She spent years in his inner circle, alongside him, and aspires through this direct lineage to keep his teachings alive. Leonard, the founder of Rebirthing Breathwork and known father of the breathwork movement in the West, only personally accredited 4 other Rebirthing Breathwork masters in the world during his lifetime. Katia has trained thousands of people to master their breath in their life, many of whom went on to become extremely successful breathwork facilitators. She dreamed up global breathing awareness years ago, wanting it to eventually be a global directory or forum uniting breathers all over the world, knowing that the breath was the one tool of unity which we all as inhabitants of this planet possess. Eventually, she attracted other passionate individuals, and together they continue to flourish as global breathing awareness. Together, we can rebirth the world. And Dan Brule says Katia is one of the best rebirthers in the world. So that's great too.
Yes, it's lovely.
You're a little bit out of your ordinary haunts right now. You're coming to us from Mexico, Macunte. Am I saying that correctly?
Mazunte in Mexico. Yeah. We decide.
No, I wanted to make sure I had the time zones correct, so I looked it up, and it says it has a population of 700. I thought Walton was small. You should rebirth the whole town and put up Doonies every other block or so.
Oh God, I would love to put Doonies up here. I don't see any fires though, because it's quite a dry terrain, even though it's tropical. It's actually a really, really fabulous little town. It's only, yes, okay, it's 700 people, maybe inhabitants, but at the moment there's thousands of tourists here. It's like absolutely gorgeous.
People, they have one of those places where the population booms. I noticed that you're
Definitely
there. I think Dan Brule was there. I know a urine therapy person who was there recently. You know, have you ever heard of Tom Elamine, the famous breatharian? He's there.
Oh,
And so
is he here?
he's in, he's in, what is it, Oaxaca?
Oaxaca. Yeah.
Oaxaca, which is that like the region where the town is? Like this, like the
Yes.
county,
Yes.
state, I guess it would be.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. It's a
yeah, he's
little.
there.
It's
He loves breath work. Maybe you'll run into him, give him a session. Tell him I
well.
said,
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, we've got. You see, there's like three. This is called. I read. That this is called the Mexican Riviera because
oh,
it's got several beautiful beaches, one alongside each other. And the towns are, of course, around those beaches, and each town has got a kind of separate identity, but the beaches are really, really gorgeous. And all of the kind of hippies have descended. There's lots of alternative therapies going on, and,
okay,
but we only chose it because,
that's why all
yeah.
people are there. I was just, wondering what's going on and what's going on there that everybody is going there. So cool.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's super hip. And, they've got a real sustainable type of mentality, generally speaking. So it feels almost like you're living in a, um, you know, in the past and in the future at the same time, because people are really, really chill, and there's no fear. That's what it feels like. You know how other parts of the world at the moment are gripped with fear, with COVID and everything? Well, over here, this is one of the reasons we came here, because, life seems to be normal. No one's really wearing masks. Children are playing on the beach. Everybody is just behaving in the way that humans behave.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to get away from the whole European, well, there's a lot going on in Europe at the moment. So we just decided to come to this part of the world and live in. You're still there, Ray?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, we froze up for a second, but we'll just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even before COVID, there was a kind of generalized fear and anxiety in a lot of places. And
For sure.
as breath workers, we're kind of sensitive to that. You get off the plane someplace and you're like, oh, I don't want to stay here very long. And then other places you get off.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you pick up the energy, and that was one of the things that Leonard taught, like,
Yes.
and let's talk about, I'm really glad to see you're keeping the lineage going, and let's talk about like, breath work, and then you're normally out of Greece, is that right?
Yeah, I live on a little island called Samothraki. I try and live away from the cities for those reasons that you're talking about, because of course there is not just pollution from chemicals, but there's also energy pollution from people, and all of this fearful, anxious sort of vibration. So we stay away from the cities. We live normally on a beautiful island called Samothraki, which has got a very small population also, only a couple of thousand people. And during the winter, it's completely isolated. And during the summer, it's a hip little town, which is, one of the mottos of the place is that the veil is thin. So, it really, really feels, because I know that there are a lot of people who are interested in metaphysical stuff on this show. It really, really feels so much like you're in the present moment without you actually doing anything about it. It's like the whole entire world disappears when you're there. You're so present, and that's what we call the veil is thin. You're so present in what is that everything else falls away, and it's beautiful. So we live on this wonderful island there called Samothraki, and that's the sort of vibe we like to follow.
Yeah, and then so you have more of it where you are now.
Yeah, and where we are now has got this similar type of vibe. you know, it's super cool. And yeah, we, sorry, when I say we, I'm talking about Sifis, who is inside at the moment. But yeah, we try and follow the sun.
Well, cool. So, and you know, if people have not done breath work and they haven't cleaned their energy body. So once you have a clean energy body, then when you're picking up negative vibes, you can feel it. And so people who haven't done that yet can't really feel it, so they don't know what we're talking about. But talk a little bit about
Right.
tell people why they should do breath work, how you're you know, what you learned from Leonard, what you consider to be his lineage, history with him, and like, you know, what you offer to people so that they can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really fully hear that question, but I think that, you know, what you're asking me is to talk a little bit about breath work, about the lineage. Is that what you said? And why people should do breath work? Is
Right.
that what you asked me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, I suppose the best way to start is just by saying I was always interested, very, very driven and motivated to explore metaphysics and let's say things that weren't apparent, you know. So they were apparent to me because I had that sort of let's say, you know, extra sensory perception in a way, that they weren't apparent to other people. And so I had a big curiosity for it ever since I was young, and explored lots of different ways, you know, like shamanism or even witchcraft, or you know, I read a lot of information out of curiosity, because I was like, okay, what is all of this?
Right.
And most of the time, what I didn't really like about a lot of the metaphysical stuff was that, because, of course, the interpretation is the mind's interpretation.
Yeah.
There was always that sort of, you know, a little bit of that scary, dark side to it, which I knew deep down inside of myself that what you focus on expands. And so I didn't really want to focus on that dark side. And as I was going through my journey and exploring and discovering and meeting lots of different people, because when you're on the journey, people just show up,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I eventually met Leonard, who, you know, what I really, really liked about his work was that he put a lot of emphasis on mind mastery and on not even entertaining, you know, what he called death urge practices.
Right.
Okay, so even every single thought of yours, every single thought that came out of your head was either taking you in one direction or another. And therefore, the more that you practiced thinking, not only, you know, in a positive or affirmative way, it wasn't only affirmative thinking, it was affirmative living. You know, it was fully being immersed in practices which would heighten your awareness, but also simultaneously uh, heighten it towards life energy, life force energy, right? So that didn't mean that you weren't supposed to feel some of the negative things that would come up, because doing many of those practices were designed to bring up, or are designed to bring up, whatever is lurking or harbored in the subconscious mind, okay, any fears that are there. But they're also designed to take you through those to the other side, especially breath work. Okay, so when I say practices, I mean breath work and spiritual purification with the elements. Okay, so working with the elements of nature in a way which brings you into alignment with their power. And if you really think about it, breath work is working with one of the elements of nature. It's working with the air element. Okay, so one of the wonderful things about meeting Leonard and working with Leonard is that he actually took the practices to the next level and created this beautiful metaphysics around it, which was basically, um, uh, well, it was based on aligning your power to the highest thought or the highest good, so that you weren't separate to it, and therefore you were it. Okay, and that made you, in a way, or you became, or you are aligned with the highest source of information in that way. Okay, because I don't know if you agree with me, but I feel that the highest source of information is love.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, and it can go into two ways. It's life or death, love or fear. And
Yes,
the highest
exactly.
source is unconditional love. And, I always felt like Leonard was, I was with him for a while and was executive director.
Yeah, I know that. How wonderful.
And I always thought he's one of the great unrecognized, unsung heroes of the modern age. He basically
100%.
started cognitive behavioral therapy, basically started with him, and he gets zero credit for that. He taught Stanislav Grof at Esalen,
Totally.
and that became holotropic breath work. And Grof acts like he never
Yeah.
heard of it. So and I think that the whole embodiment thing. So the great thing about breath work is, instead of like this, you have this hyper conceptual spirituality which just stays in the head, and they build castles in the sky and pretend they live there and completely ignore the
100%.
And this gets the energy in the body, and that's where the real spiritual growth takes place, when you can
100%
flowing through your body without any restrictions or blockages. That's a spiritual master, and that was
100%. Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I always like to say that it's other forms of therapy, or even medicines and things like that, they give you this kind of out of body experience, whereas breath work, or rebirthing in particular, because it's circular breathing, it gives you an inner body experience. You're really in your body, and the feeling afterwards is so clear and so in your body that when you do the process repetitively, you can't but love your body. You can only love your body after you start to breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe, and you get more and more into your body. You have less and less fear of your body, because one of the reasons people like to stay in their head and totally disconnected to their body is because they're afraid of their senses. Because what does the body offer you? Your body offers you these incredible sensual experiences. And because people are not, a lot of people are not, or are afraid of really experiencing pleasure, and pain, right? So what breathwork does is that it gets you back into your body, and you learn somehow to turn that pain that you're afraid of experiencing into pleasure through your breath. And it's not you that's doing it, it's your breath that's doing it. It literally is washing you clean. And so the experience is really in your body, and it feels so good to be in your body. That's the response I get from most of my students and most of the people that I work with, that they had no idea what it was like to really live in their body.
Yeah.
you know. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that Rebirthing and Leonard has given, to teach people how to live in their body and love and appreciate their body for its magnificence.
I talk
You know,
about it, people are in their body up until like the age of 2 or 3, I guess. I like to compare it to if you stop taking baths or showers, how you feel, how you feel grody and like not good if you don't have a shower for a
yeah,
couple days. So, but if you stop taking baths or showers, after a few years, you would get used to it. And if you let like 20, 30 years
right,
go by and you completely got used to it, you wouldn't even know anything was wrong. And yet on some deep level, you would feel awful, but you would have gotten used to feeling awful, and you would just think that's how life is, and you just go around feeling awful all the time. And then one day somebody gives you a hot shower and you would feel fantastic.
yeah,
And you would say to yourself, I will never go
yeah,
without a shower again. So when people do the breath work, it's like they get their body cleaned from all that psychic debris on the inside. And now for the first time in 30
right,
years, they're clean. And now they say, I will never let my body get that dirty again. And they
right.
just feel so much better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember many years ago, I was, I had gone, this was, oof, I don't know, 20 years ago or more. I had gone to a kinesiologist, and he was pressing certain points. And he was saying, do you feel that? Do you feel that? Do you feel that? And I was saying, no, no, no. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I've got a lot of tolerance. And he turned around and he said to me, no, it's not because you've got a lot of tolerance. It's because your body is so full of toxins that you can't feel what's going on in your body. And I was, for a second, just so shocked by what he said, and kind of didn't understand it at that point. I was like, what's he saying? I'm really cool, I'm really good with my body and stuff. But the truth is that because sometimes people will say to you, well, why would I want to do that to myself? I feel fine already, you know. But you've got no idea how fantastic you're going to, because there's a whole entire spectrum there that's available to you to play in, right? A field to play in, which you haven't even discovered yet. And okay, we're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just saying there's a whole field to play in which you haven't even discovered yet. And so one of those fields becomes available to you through breath work and through working with the other elements. Okay, so sometimes we think to ourselves, well, why do people look so beautiful when they've been on a holiday in nature? Why do they look so fantastic, when they've been to the beach? And you think, oh, it's the tan. It's not the tan,
And it's not the,
right? It's just because, yeah,
you
it's
know,
because they've actually
here,
spent time.
here, St.
Yeah,
Croix, we're a popular tourist destination. And I used one of my
right.
clients, when I did, one of my rebirthing breathwork clients was the
Yeah,
hotel desk worker. And she was showing
right,
these people, like a family would come down from the States, and they looked like warmed over death. They looked awful.
right.
And then a week later, they're full of energy and just
Mm-hmm.
happy and like alive. And that was from water purification, getting in the water every day.
Totally.
Up in Walton, we had bathtubs, so you'd have to soak in the tub for 2 hours. Here we have the Caribbean Sea, and I get the same result in 15 or 20 minutes that, took 2 hours.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
they would get in the water and their chakras would get cleaned and they would come alive again. So, and that's just with water.
Absolutely.
You combine that with fire, earth, and air, it's like a physical immortality machine.
Totally, totally. And, you know, that's why also, you know, it's been proven, for example, there's scientific proof that people who swim in cold water every day, winter swimmers, have got longer lifespans, they're much less likely to get sick, you know, all of those things. Or let's say now they call it exposure to cold.
Okay.
Okay. But it's still nature. It's still the elements of nature when you're stuff like that.
All right, we're freezing up a little, but I'm sure she'll come back. So, okay.
Evidence and stuff,
We
you know.
we kind of froze up
So
there.
yeah, that's okay. I was just talking about exposure to cold. I was saying that rebirthers have been doing it since the 1970s,
Yeah.
you know, but thankfully Wim Hof has brought it forward, and he has, you know, brought in that scientific evidence, which is what sometimes people need to make them feel safe.
And
You
there's
see?
yeah, and there's more
So,
scientific evidence, you know, like the polyvagal theory. Or just,
mhm.
yeah, I mean, so you know, first when I was first starting out on my rebirthing career back in the 90s, people would ask me, how does this work? How does this do all that? How does this heal all these different problems from
Right.
physical to mental to emotional? And I'd be like, I don't know. Nobody knows. We just know it works. Now,
Yeah,
now
yeah,
we have
yeah.
something we can say. We can go read Porges, read about,
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
science
But
is catching up.
that was one of the wonderful things about the movement in the earlier days, is that there was so much trust, and people, well, you know, amongst certain people who wanted to have a different experience, you know. So we didn't have any, as you said, no scientific evidence whatsoever. Um,
I'm still here.
but
I'm gonna like
yeah,
go off
okay,
camera.
no
Yeah.
worries. Yeah, yeah. We didn't have any scientific evidence whatsoever, but we knew it worked. We knew it worked because we were actually doing it, right? And so, you know, in those days, only people who were real adventurers and, you know, deeply motivated to explore other parts of themselves were willing to do it. Everybody else, or a lot of people, were afraid of it, right?
Right, right.
So
Leaders, we were the leaders.
yeah, yeah. So that's an amazing thing. I think I feel very, very blessed about that. I feel very blessed to be a part of that movement. And I think that, you know, after breath work, I totally found my passion, and there was nothing else that could really, you know, drag me away from that. And I think that's a beautiful decision I made in my life.
Tell us about your very first breathwork session, if you can remember.
Oh, okay. Of course, I can remember totally. It was very, very profound. Well, you know, it was a time in my life where I was very confused. I looked like I had the happy life. So, you know, I was married with children. We were reasonably, you know, well off. I spent, you know, I was just like, I suppose, a yummy mummy. You know, I was going around taking the kids to school, but deeply, deeply, there was a lot of confusion and unhappiness. I was really into exercise and yoga, which is what saved me, you know, because it would bring me back into my body, because I was in my mind a lot, right? But it still didn't solve some of the questions I had in my mind. And anyway, I was really into doing all different types of therapies and everything. I had a great curiosity for it. And somebody told me there's a guy on the island and he's using just the breath work to take you into an altered state of consciousness. And I was like, really? How interesting. So you've got to remember, I'd done all sorts of stuff. So, you know, including yoga, and I knew the power of the breath, but I had no idea what was going to happen to me when I went along to this session. And I lay down and he said, look, it's very, very simple. You just have to breathe in and out at that time through the mouth. And I said, okay, you know, and I didn't really think anything was going to happen. I thought I was going to go into a deep meditation. But I had, you know, what we call, you know, jokingly called the full Bollywood experience, you know, like I was totally having visuals, very strong visuals with colors and images and, you know, very, very profound understanding of, it was a very personal thing, but what I knew already, okay, that my ex-husband was very, very similar to my brother and my father. But in this actual session, I was, you know, having an argument with him. Like in the session, I could see myself having the argument with him and feeling all of that frustration and, let's say, victim type of consciousness. But while I was trying to convince him, his face turned into the face of my brother, and I was continuing, you know, continuing to try to get my perspective across, and then it turned into the face of my father, right? So this was my first session where I could actually visually feel and see all of this happening in front of me. And it was like I was this little girl trying to convince my father of something and really frustrated and crying. And I realized all of a sudden that there was, you know, first of all, it was me and I one that was just repeating the same behavior with these men in my life. And in that moment, I realized that I have to change and something has to really, really change, you know. And of course, I had my emotional release and I had that peaceful thing. I was crying for so long. And then after that, I got up and I thought to myself, wow, that is the most profound thing that I've ever experienced. That was so deep and it really moved something inside of me. And I made the decision that I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to, I mean, from the very first session. So thankfully, there were a bunch of us at that time. And we invited this man back to teach us how to become rebirthers. And that's how I got into rebirthing. So from my very, very first session, I knew that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life and share it with other people. That was my first session.
Cool. Yeah.
It was very deep, very profound, really changed my life.
Yeah, I think that's the common denominator is people who dedicate their lives to this. It changed their life, and it's sometimes it can be a little challenging to get it across to other people how profound it is. You know, they
Totally.
I've had more than once. I've had to explain to people, I'm not a breathing therapist. Like, you know, if you get in a car accident, you don't come see me to repair the damage to your lungs. That's not what I do. This is, and you know, it's like I've had clients who come to me for a physical problem, and the next thing they know, I'm talking to them about their relationship with their mother, and they're like, what's that got to do with anything? And then, you know, it's like, well, you'd be surprised.
Right. Yeah, 100%. That's the whole thing, you know, it really, really ties in, you know, the mind, body, soul connection. You know, there is no separation, especially during the last part of the session where there's a kind of total merging of you know, you, like you're fully you, you're united, and the mind is out of the way, or it's calm, or it's in that field, and the body is completely alive, and it feels all of that energy moving through it. And you feel that you have this incredible connection to the all, whatever you want to call that. So yeah, it's such a deep and beautiful experience. How wonderful. I wish that everybody has this experience at some point in their life.
And one of the realizations I've come to of late is that you can use what you learn in a session in terms of moving the energy in your body, and in terms of how you can feel when the energy is hitting a block. Like, I think of energy as love, and it goes through your body looking for places where there is not love, where there's a blockage to love, and heals that. But even when you're not doing a session per se, you're just walking around in your everyday life, and you get something comes up in your experience that kind of like triggers you, and you feel like a resistance energy coming. From what you learned in the breathwork session, you can move through that resistance energy, and it's like your everyday life becomes a profound vehicle for spiritual growth, just from what you learned in the breathwork session.
Totally. Yeah, this is the very, very interesting thing about breathwork, is that it doesn't really stop working on you after the session. Right. It kind of creeps in on you. This is the part where, which is inexplicable, right? So science would be able to say to you, for example, yes, there is a chemical reaction, the vagus nerve is being activated. All of these sort of things that science will say to you are very, very interesting. But breathwork kind of creeps up on you, So the more that you do it, the more that you're aware of it, and the more that you're aware of the things that you explored and discovered in it. But there is something about that energy which creeps up on you and makes you feel more alive and more alive and more present, And I really don't know how to explain that, but I think, if you wanted to explain it very, very simply, it's getting a new habit in your life of consciously bringing life force energy into your body actively, and that life force energy transforming your body and your mind on a daily basis, because it's not that it comes in and goes out, it comes in and it stays. And so you feel more alive, more alive, more alive. It's really, really such an incredibly powerful tool to have.
I like the way you put that. And
yeah,
you spent time with Leonard, or after I had went off on my own, and you knew him so later. My observation about Leonard Orr, because you have to think about it, we're talking about this profound experience just with the air alone, the breathwork session alone, not to mention the practice with fire and earth and water.
Right.
And he was doing all of this like 10, 20 years before anybody else for his entire life. My observation about him, I would watch him interact with other people, and I would see profound energetic spiritual teachings going on that the person receiving didn't even know were happening. It was just mind-boggling. You'd be watching it. So like, what was your experience when you were like, when you were hosting him on a workshop or a seminar? What did you observe in terms of some of the things that would happen?
Well, look, Leonard to me was an example of what you could become if you were dedicated to the practices.
Dedication was definitely his strong suit.
Yes, and so first of all, I'll speak about my own experience. The first time that I met him, that I actually got into his physical presence, and I know a lot of people experience that when they would get into his physical presence, was, almost like a trauma response. My heart was palpating, I was sweating, I really wanted to vomit. Um, I was short of breath. I was thinking, what on earth is going on? Right. And in the beginning, I was thinking, I don't like this. What's happening? But then somebody explained to me that his energy is so refined, you know, and your energy is so dense at this moment that when you get into his presence, your energy can't take it.
Right.
Okay. And I was like, what? I mean, at that stage also, I had read some of his books and stuff. I was interested, but um, I was going through a huge cognitive dissonance. I was trying to understand with my mind, and my mind was, couldn't explain it, right? And I remember, okay, when I actually engaged with him, like we had eye contact, that feeling of falling from the sky into a bottomless pit, but not a dark pit, a light, luminescent sort of pit,
Right.
like flying through this luminescence which was coming through his eyes, and that was one of the things that made me extremely curious about him, right? Because I had that powerful physical reaction to him. And watching the process of my mind going through, whenever he would say something where I was thinking, for example, about physical immortality, I was thinking, oh my God, what a load of rubbish, right? But there was something about his presence which was saying, your mind is saying this is a lot of rubbish, but there's something about this man's presence which is telling you this is not rubbish, you know and his intelligence also. He was so deeply connected, so deeply intelligent. And then after spending time and seeing how dedicated he was, so actually living with him for a while when he came to Greece by myself, which was an incredible experience. So I was watching, for example, his routine. He would wake up 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and be in the bath for sometimes 3 to 4 hours, and I could hear him breathing in the bathtub because we shared a bathroom, so I couldn't go to the bathroom for that time. And whenever I would walk past the bath, I could hear him breathing. And I was thinking, wow, then he'd come out of the bath and I would go in for my bath. And there were those rituals, so there was also that side of him, which was at that energetic level where he understood the power of other people's energy. And so one of the philosophies, as you know, Ray, is, have a bath before you get into someone else's presence.
Right.
Do some practices out of respect for that other person's energy. So in the beginning, I was thinking, oh, there's a kind of hierarchy here. He thinks he's better, and our energy isn't as good as his energy, so he doesn't want us to be in his presence. So that was the old way of thinking. But then after a while, after doing the practices, I started understanding that it's got nothing to do with hierarchy or being better. It's about you building up your desire to love somebody enough that before going into their presence, you have cleared your own energy field and you're totally at peace in your mind. So you're not going in there with a complicated mind. You're going in there with a clear mind because you've done the rituals as well.
Well,
And
and
so you
part
can
of it,
meet that person at that level of clarity.
yeah, I mean,
You
part of
see,
it is just when your energy is frantic and chaotic and agitated,
exactly,
you're that people, other people
exactly,
can pick that up from you. They can, it has an effect on other people, and you don't want to do that. But
100%.
as far, yeah, what you're saying about the
Yeah,
hierarchy thing, I remember a funny thing when I first went to the training center and Leonard would meet with me, but he wouldn't, because
yeah,
I just arrived, he would only meet with me by telephone. Even if he
yes,
was upstairs in the same house, we would have to have the conversation over the telephone. And I was like, what have I got,
right,
cooties or something? What is this? But eventually I realized that,
yeah, right,
and
totally.
another thing, if you think about it, people will think maybe like you're exaggerating with how pure his presence was, but he had been doing the practices for decades. When I got to the center, after I'd been doing them for about 2 years, virtually every
Exactly.
day because Leonard made me, I would go out into the town and I would just be talking to someone like a grown
Yes,
man and he would suddenly start crying just because of the energy difference, because I've been doing these practices for a couple of years and the welcoming energy was so palpable that this grown man had never been welcomed.
100%.
And so, if that can happen in just a couple of years, imagine if somebody's been doing them for decades. Um, so, yeah, so it's
Absolutely. And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when you do the work, you do, when, as you said, as to,
there you are. All right, I see you. There you are.
yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep going. We don't think we lost anything. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was just saying that it's absolutely true what you said, that when you do the practices, you realize that other people can perceive something, and as you said, they might just burst into tears just by being in your presence. And so finally, about those energetic practices, Leonard was a kind of magical being. you know he practiced so much with the elements, and he was so dedicated to this beautiful work that um you know as you said in the beginning of this conversation, there was energetic work going on in the room which was phenomenal. And he used to always say, when he went off back into the fire, because in the morning he would have his fire, in the evening he'd have his fire. And people would always say, well, how come Leonard only showed up for a couple of hours? And um, he was doing the work, he was doing the energy work on them with the fire, even though he wasn't there lecturing for them, you know. And so yeah, it was a wonderful and incredible experience to spend time with him, and really just also um, you know I loved speaking to him because there was something that was so simple about the way that he spoke. So you would come up with a complicated problem or idea, and he would answer it with one sentence or one word, you know. And this was another result of spending so much time with the elements and not much time with people. Okay, his mind became so clear that he could answer your big complicated problem with one sentence or one word, and
Right.
that word would just blow your mind, right?
Right.
So yeah, Ray, I think that we were very blessed to have that time, both of us, because you also got to spend 2 years at the center and actually go into those practices deeply and understand them a little.
Well, no, it was like 5 years altogether. I was living
Amazing.
for three. And what when you're so when you work with people, um, do you travel around like the way Leonard did, going from place to place, or do you have like a center in your island in Greece where people come? Because it seems to me like that's the better model because you can control the environment better and give them like a fire pit that's ready to go. I
Totally.
always thought that,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what, so people can come to you for like not just breathwork sessions, but like the full on spiritual
Trainings.
purification trainings.
Yeah. Totally. So we've got all sorts of people who show up. We've got people who show up and they stay for the whole entire summer, and we see them sometimes. I mean, we're not doing any particular training. They just come and they're rebirthers, and we say, well, look, here you can do a fire here. You can have this. We show them around, and then they are just doing their thing, which is
Oh, that's
a
cool.
beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And it's like a community, so there are other people who are rebirthers or breath workers, and so they get together with each other. And this island is starting to become like a little rebirthing breathwork community, which is beautiful. So every year there are several rebirthers and breath workers who show up, and then they get to meet as a community, which I think is very important.
Yeah.
you know and then, of course, we have our training every year in Samothraki, which is the 21-day training, the 3-week training, and they get to practice spiritual purification with the elements. And I come in and I lecture almost every day, and then they get, facilitated rebirthing sessions, and they also learn how to give rebirthing sessions. So that one is an actual training, which is incredible. It happens every year at the end of August and the first couple of weeks of September. So that's going to be on again this year, and fantastic. And then we often get people who invite us to go to other locations and give trainings, which are also wonderful and quite successful. But I have to be honest, on the island, the level of spiritual purification is far superior to anywhere else I've been, because we've managed the environment so that people can light fires and they can have their, different experiences in nature in a safe environment, you see. And then now, very soon, we're going to have an online component, which is being launched at the end of March. And that is going to be, we've already done online trainings, which are wonderful. They're a wonderful experience. So we do the lecture, or I do the lecture online. And then after that, we have rebirthers giving people sessions, and then eventually training people how to do sessions online. And so this part, we were doubtful about initially, but in a way we were forced or squeezed to do it because of COVID.
Yeah, same here.
And once we started doing it, though, we could clearly see that it was really, still very effective, and people had a beautiful result. But of course, the truth is, there is nothing like being in the presence of other people who are on the same mission as you are, right? So when you're in an environment and everybody is there physically, it's just, really, I have to admit, it's much more powerful, right? So, but that is a beautiful way for people to learn how to become rebirthers and breath workers, and then they can come and join instead of coming for 3 weeks. which has been one of the difficulties that people have leaving their life for a month and coming to Samothraki to do the training. They can come for a few days, for 1 week, and do the physical component, you know. So yeah, there's that as well. So that's what we're doing basically. You know, there's a lot of stuff I'm writing also. I'm in the process of writing a book with my partner about our experiences with Leonard and rebirthing, and the way that, you know, kind of bringing rebirthing into a more modern light as well, because that's one of my missions, you know. So making rebirthing understandable to people who kind of put it on the shelf because it isn't translatable into modern language for some people, right? So hopefully in this book, we're going to create something which makes rebirthing, brings it up to modern standard without, though, polluting the purity of it, you see. So we're working on something like that also, which is a wonderful thing. And yeah, trying to live our best life, you know, being in wonderful locations and having this digital nomad type of lifestyle, which is excellent.
Well, and you, like I think also when you're working with people online, if you're working with, like, you know, one-on-one, or maybe one and two or three other people, as opposed to like there's some people who are doing like group sessions with like 200 people at once, and they just have
Right.
everybody breathe in and out through the mouth as hard as they can. And I guess some of them
Yeah.
have a good experience and some of them not so much. So I
Right.
think it's better. It's like when you work, it's like a higher quality when you're working with lower numbers. And
Of course.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So Leonard used to always say, you know, that first of all, you know, there is no mastery in group sessions, right? There is no mastery in group sessions because, you know, mastery is really about correcting breathing deviations, you know, understanding people's breathing deviations through and getting them to a place where their breath is full and free, like the baby's breath, as they used to breathe before their breath was inhibited, you know. And so in a group setting, when you have a whole bunch of people, you can't really pay attention to people's breathing deviations. There's nothing to, you know, it's impossible, right? So what you're doing is that you're putting a whole bunch of people through an experience many of them may not even be ready for because they don't have any idea what they're getting themselves into, without the support of, you know, being right there for them. So, and telling them, well, you know, hold on a second, you know, you're safe. And if you move your breath in this way, just slightly, maybe something will change or whatever it is. And it's not even about making their session better or anything like that. It's just about bringing attention to their own breathing deviations so that they start to really breathe fully and freely, you know. And everybody has got separate breathing deviations, very individual breathing deviations. So working in a group doesn't work, you know. But working in a group can still give you that incredible high, that incredible buzz, that incredible, even profound, some people have very profound messages and understanding. And, you know, the group dynamic can also help sometimes. Okay, so if you have a whole bunch of traumatized people, so Leonard used to always say, you know, you're going to make people more traumatized, but maybe you're laying there and you can't break through. Somebody right next to you is quite traumatized. They start to break through, and just even the sound of them crying gives you access to a place where, you know, you might bring up something for you. Okay. So I'm not saying that group sessions are really, really, are terrible or bad or anything like that. I think group sessions serve their purpose and they can do that very well. But if you really, really want to understand your breath,
I was talking more about the when the ratio, like if it's one breath worker to 3 breathers in person versus one breath worker to 300 breathers on a Zoom screen.
for sure.
When
Absolutely.
I'm like, I'm not sure that's a good idea, even though there's lots of people out there doing it, and I guess they're probably, but I'm a little hesitant.
Well, look, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, but I think that the time has come where this is a different generation. They've got different ideas, and
Sometimes I
in a
think
way,
the younger people are
well,
further. They're ready for more faster. Sometimes it seems like to me.
Well, I think that there's a big movement towards, let's say spirituality. But of course, in any big movement, there are people who are really authentically on a mission, and there are other people who, are hanging on because of the vibe, right? And all of that is perfectly okay. I mean, the way that I think about it all is that. Every person has their journey, and their journey is their responsibility, right? And what I can offer is that. And when people are ready to go beyond what they've already experienced on their journey, I invite them to come and do our training, because they will go beyond that, and they'll go beyond that without any drugs or medicines.
Yeah.
You see? So that's why I think rebirthing is so powerful, because it takes you beyond anything that you've ever experienced, and especially when it is an individualized program, or a training where you get a lot of attention, right?
Right.
So yeah, Ray, I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think, well, the breath has taken a life of its own, and Leonard has done a magnificent job of creating a wonderful he's created, in a way, the physics of the metaphysics around the breath,
Right.
And, he's brought it down to earth and said, okay, well, this is what you do with it. You can use your breath for A, B, C, you can use your mind for, D, E, F, and you can use the elements for energy mastery. And if you bring all of those things together, you are a master. You're the master of your life. And that program that he's created works.
I mean, I know people, physical immortality is kind of like, some people have a really strong resistance to it. All I will say is, one time Leonard Orr had been traveling for 8 days. He'd been giving like a workshop or a seminar in a different location every day. This was driving around in the US. When he came, he was like 60. I was in his 60s at this time. He came back, he looked like a 90-year-old old man. He looked completely dead, wiped out. He looked awful. He went and did his fire and his bath for the weekend, and I saw him again Monday. He looked like he was 35. So that's when I said, maybe there's something to this physical immortality, anti-aging stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't really get it unless you practice, and plus physical immortality, unfortunately, well, I think that Leonard was a real pioneer in bringing those concepts to the mainstream.
Yeah.
Okay. And now Deepak Chopra speaks about physical immortality. Greg Braden speaks about it. Joe Dispenza speaks about it. Everybody's hopped on the physical immortality train. You know,
Right.
they call it something different. You know, they call it indefinite longevity, or indefinite life extension, or metahuman, or, you know, whatever you can imagine. And there are many billionaires who are investing in these ideas. And you know that when the billionaires start investing in it and the universities start to research it, it's an idea which is going to come to fruition pretty quickly.
Right.
Right? Because it means it's getting more into the mainstream. And we know for a fact thought is creative. Science has proved thought is creative. So the more people that start thinking about it, and you know, living it, the more likely it is to happen.
Right.
Right? It becomes the reality.
It's like the 4-minute mile.
Yeah, you
4-minute
know,
mile. Once somebody did it, everybody could do it.
exactly. And so, you know, the thing with physical immortality is that at that time when it came out, it was like, you know, Leonard was well, he was in that position of convincing people, but in a very logical way. I mean, you know, in the beginning when I read his stuff, I couldn't get it. But then I realized, well, hold on a second, you know, um, I believe thought is creative, you know, and I really can see it in action in my life. I understand manifestation. So if I believe that thought is creative to the extent that I believe it, then why isn't the thought that death is inevitable destroying my life? Of course it's destroying my life, you know?
Right.
And so all of these things that he started sharing with people and making them understand, you know, more than anything, were just super empowering. It's exactly what, you know, all of these incredible quantum physicists are now talking about. And they're saying that it's something which can be a reality according to quantum physics. Okay, it's just that when he was talking about it, there wasn't that evidence around it yet, you know? And so I think that his work is, as you said in the very beginning, you know, it's underappreciated. And whenever I read, sometimes I open books and I read things from, you know, very amazing, you know, psychiatrists, psychologists and stuff like that. And I can see elements of his work in their work. And I think, wow, I'm sure they've read him, you know?
Yep.
Right. And
read him or read someone who was influenced by
right.
it. Yeah,
Absolutely. And yeah, and same with the physical immortality stuff. You know, now it's coming to fruition. Now it's starting, you know, and it's just I wish that he was around to you know, see how his work has just evolved.
Want me to
You
tell you
know,
a funny
into
story about that?
please,
Like one
yes.
thing that I think for people who are really into physical immortality, I've concluded that it has to be like a strong preference, but you can't be so attached to it that if it doesn't happen, it freaks you out, because that's what's going to keep it from happening.
Of course.
And the reason I say that is because one time Leonard asked me to take over his speaking engagements for like the next several months because he needed to work on his healing. And he said, because if the
Right.
father of physical immortality dies, that's not going to be very good for the movement. And I said, well, if you're doing this, if you're doing this for other people, I don't think that's going to work. And he said, you think I don't
Right.
know that? It's something I work on every day. Some days I'm really good at it. Other days, not so much. So it was like the pressure on him as the forerunning pioneer to succeed for everyone else coming after him. That was part of what you know, made it harder for him. So I always bear that in mind when I think about, you know, how can I do it if
how
he
beautiful.
could? Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that many, many, many times people say to me, especially, like just after he died, people were writing to me and saying, um, do you still believe in physical immortality? Right. And I was saying, of course, I believe in physical immortality, 100%. You know, just because he died doesn't mean anything to me. The only thing that it means to me is that I don't have this beautiful human being around me, but I still have him inside me and in everything that I see,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
also, um, I know that other people have done it, so I know it's possible. So if one person can
right,
do it, it's possible that I could do it. So I know it's possible that I
totally,
could do it. I don't know if I will succeed, but at least I know it's possible. And you think about the placebo effect and the nocebo effect or the hypochondriac effect. People can make themselves sick
totally,
and they can make themselves well with a sugar pill, all from the power of the mind. So if you take that into
a
account,
hundred percent.
running around thinking, I'm going to die one day, of what possible earthly good can that possibly be?
I think that also, um, it's not even really about going around thinking I'm going to die one day. It's actually having long bouts of wanting to die,
Yeah,
you know, because I think every single human being, even though they might not be aware of it, so they might not be sitting there thinking, I want to die, but actually I'm sure every human being has had that thought cross their mind, you
yeah,
know. But especially as life accelerates, and so do the pressures and the anxiety and the fears and everything else that is involved in this strange, you know, I don't know, the times that we're going through are quite strange, right? Um, it can really make you want to die. It can really, like, even for example, let's say burnout. A lot of people suffer burnout. They don't realize that that's just their body saying, just, I've had enough.
yeah,
I can't anymore. I can't keep going anymore and keep fighting to live, just to have a normal life. I have to keep working, 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 working. Like Leonard used to always say as a joke, the two sure things in this life are death and taxes. You know, he had that incredible sense of humor, right? And he wanted to overcome both of those things because they were both of those things were total death urge, right? So, I think that what the breath work does and what all of this, let's say, beautiful um, package that he's created does is that it makes you love life enough to want to live, right? So you start to love life, you start to love your body, you start to understand other people, you really, really understand other people's energy and the way that other people's energy and fear can pull you down, and you make conscious decisions to be around people who are going to inject you with life energy instead of making you feel miserable, you see. And so it really is a lifelong practice. It really is something beautiful, which if you dedicate yourself to it, um, I don't know, I can only speak for myself and for, you know, I would say thousands of other people that I know who have dedicated their life to rebirthing and breath work. And um, you can see that they're beautiful, happy people, you know? right? And that's I think the point of life. So
Yeah,
Ray, are you there?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me put my picture up. I'm doing,
yeah,
um,
that's okay.
I wanted, I
I'm
was,
gonna have to
okay,
leave in 10 minutes. Okay,
okay.
so if there's any more specific questions, just let me know.
Um, yeah, let me, get myself back up. I'm looking for I'm gonna
Okay.
put, the link that you gave me was for your appointment page. Is that what you want to be up there?
Well, you could put my website up there. You see, the reason that I gave you the link for my page is because the website and everything are going to go through a big, they're all being changed at the moment. So I'm working on different stuff, but you can put the website that's currently there up, which is Global Breathing Awareness, www.globalbreathingawareness.com.
Okay.
And, just if anybody wants to find out more about the trainings or private sessions or whatever, they can go to that link. But I suppose, yeah, just take them to Global Breathing Awareness initially, and we'll see,
I can also put the other page up. I just wanted
you
to,
know,
I was
how
gonna,
that changes.
I can also put the other page up. I just wanted to announce it over the show because some people are just,
Put the website up.
so globalbreathingawareness.com. Cool.
Yes. Okay. And soon there's going to be, another website. So, but that's awesome. It's awesome for now because this is coming out on Friday anyway.
Oh, your new website's coming out on Friday?
No. Our interview is on will be coming out this Friday, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. All right. Good.
All right, my dear.
And so, any parting words you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think it's really beautiful that breathwork is becoming mainstream, and that there are a lot of people out there who are becoming friends with their breath. They're starting to understand the power of their breath and how it can take them from having any type of experience into having a completely different experience, So your breath is a bridge, and it's a wonderful tool for you to grow and change. And what I'd like to leave you with is just start experimenting yourself with it. And it doesn't really matter how you start working with your breath. So, yes, it's great if you can have a private session, or if you can go somewhere where people can teach you more about your breath in a private type of way so that you get a deep understanding of it. But if you're still in that space where you can only experience the breath in a group, still go for it. Just go for it. Keep experimenting with your breath until it becomes a passion, and then find somebody who can really teach you how to go deeper. And yeah, that's all I'd like to leave you with, is that, the breath is love. And if you want to have love in your life, just really get to know your breath. And thank you very much, Ray, also for interviewing me. I'm really grateful to meet you and meet somebody who has had some beautiful experiences with Leonard.
It was a pleasure meeting you too, and I'm glad to hear about you. Yes, thank you for coming on, and I really appreciate it. You enjoy the rest of your mini vacation there, and
thank you.
I hope we get lots of people to come to Samothrace in the Greek islands.
Yes.
And get some really good spiritual purification for themselves. Okay.
Wonderful.
I'll put all the links up.
Thank you very much.
And you guys
Okay.
go on the internet, take a look at what she's offering, and take advantage of it. There are not that many people in the world right now offering this, so it's really good to take advantage when you can. All right, I'm going to let you check out, and I'll
thank you, Ray. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speak soon. Bye.
Bye. Okay, that was Katia Boustani. So she couldn't stay on for the whole 2 hours. Just in case you don't know, this is Children of the Sun. We are broadcasting every Friday, 12:30 to 2:30, usually, on WSTX AM 970, the award-winning radio show station and the soul of the Caribbean. You can also pick us up on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, sometimes Twitch TV. Radio station's website, WSTXradio.com. Just click the listen live icon. So that's how you can get us live. And Apple, TuneIn Radio, Stream, all the live radio streaming apps, podcasts. My own page, Ray Bratcher, my breathwork page, which is called Sacred Breath. Sometimes I put stuff up on the my blog, Sacred Breath Freedom. No, Sacred Breath Gateway to Freedom. That's a WordPress blog. And so all those places you can catch like a recording of it if you miss the live broadcast. Katia Boustani, Katia Boustani. I'll have the links up when I post this up on the YouTube and Facebook. Global Breathing Awareness. Well, that was fun. I really enjoyed that conversation. I don't get a chance very often to speak with someone else who also spent a lot of quality time with Leonard Orr and got some of the deeper teachings. A lot of people have done the 5-day training and maybe even done the 5-day training more than once. But that was just sort of like the initial public offering, kind of like the winnowing out testing process. And if you didn't at least show a certain level of mastering the basics, he wouldn't even mention the more advanced things to you. And I can tell, though, that from what Katia is saying, some of the things she said, that she got some of those advanced teachings. I think it's interesting to me that she's on a tiny island in Greece, Samothrace, and here I am on a tiny island in the Caribbean, St. Croix. And, it kind of makes you think, at first I'm thinking, I guess everybody at a certain level with breath work gets sent to some out of the way location. And why is that? But then I was, and I had a client one time who spent a lot of years with a really famous spiritual teacher. I'm not going to say the name, but if I said the name, you would know the name. And told me that they got more out of 2 months with me than they did in 10 years with this other famous person. And that but they didn't think, they thought if I were in New York City, I would be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But they didn't think I would have that many people from St. Croix coming. And I'm thinking, I was intuitively guided to come here for a reason. And think I should be available to the people, but the people have to show me they're interested. You know, call me, set up an appointment. But then I was thinking about it. It's kind of like the way it's always been. The training center began in Chico, California, the northern mountains of California near the Oregon border. Most of the people didn't come from the town of Chico. They didn't even come from LA or Hollywood. Most of the people came from London, Paris, Warsaw, Rio de Janeiro, Colombia, Ecuador. They came from all over the world. And the same thing when we had the center in Walton, New York. People didn't come from Walton or Delhi, or a lot of them came from New York City, but a lot of them came from all over the world. And I imagine Katia's center in Greece has the same experience. There's probably people right next door that she'll never see. And then people from all over the world come. So why am I saying that? Well, I remember one time Leonard went to India, from California to India, just for the off chance. There was one particularly advanced Hindu, but he was so advanced you couldn't really say he was a Hindu anymore. But he was a very advanced person on a spiritual level. And Leonard went all the way from California to India just on the off chance he might be able to talk to this guy for an hour or two. And the man lived on the outskirts of an Indian village with like 800, not a huge village, but like 800, 1,000 people. Not one person in that village had ever gone to see this man. And so it's almost like we take for granted that which is easily available. Or maybe we think it's easily available and, so I don't have to do it right away. He'll always be there. I can go see him tomorrow or next week or next month. So this client of mine who had told me that they got more out of 2 months with me than they did in 10 years with this famous teacher, said that if I were in New York City, I could be seeing clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And well, I don't think I could physically do that. And I kind of would like to have a more leisurely pace of work. So I'm happy to be on St. Croix, and I'm happy to be available to the people of St. Croix. I have these days it's weird. Even people who live here on St. Croix, of course, because of the pandemic, I'm seeing a lot of them by Zoom. And then I'm also seeing people worldwide by Zoom. But I think that, I was intuitively guided to come here, and I don't think it was just to only service people in London via Zoom. I think I'm supposed to do something with the people here. And I know there are people here who are suffering. I know there are a lot of people who had not even recovered from Maria before the pandemic hit. And there are a lot of, I work with energy, so I feel energy, and I feel stress. I feel people that are numbed out. I feel people that are in a constant state of dread, waiting for the next shoe to drop. And so I know times are hard right now for a lot of people, and I know people are suffering. And so I'm here, I'm available. The breath work that Katia and I do is not just like, a meditation. It is a really serious work. Your life becomes better in every way when you do this work. You become self-actualized, so you're thriving, not just surviving. You have better, more satisfying personal relationships, more job and career satisfaction. You just banish stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. You have more peace of mind, inner calm, less anger, less trauma and drama, better health, even physical healings, more prosperity and abundance, personal and spiritual growth. It's not a religion, but it's definitely very, very spiritual. I think it puts you in touch with like your core, the essence, your strength, where you have strength and power and abilities that you don't even realize you have. And it like you put you in touch with that. So you are ready for anything that life might be ready to throw at you. At the higher levels, I work with you to help you achieve your goals and create a more meaningful life. You were meant for more than being a drone worker executing meaningless, tedious, menial tasks. And, that sounds like a pretty big claim, but it's got a proven track record. Been around since the 70s. I've been around since the mid 90s. So I'm willing to work with you. I want to work with you. And, it doesn't really matter. A lot of people think that like they're too old or their background is too unusual or, they're or it doesn't translate to their culture or their ethnicity or whatever. It's your own life force energy. I'm getting your own life force energy to flow through you. And then I just get out of the way. And your own life force energy knows you regardless of background or culture or early childhood experiences. None of that matters. It's your life force energy. It knows you better than you know yourself, let alone me or anyone else. I've done sessions where people came from like really remote villages in the Andes Mountains, and I completely had no clue about their life, and there was no common language, and I didn't have a translator. So I just showed them how to breathe and got them to copy me. And one person, young man, was healed of asthma. So that's like a physical healing example. And one older woman got relief from a significant cultural relationship issue. And that was all done with virtually no communication or understanding of any kind of shared experiences at all, because the breath does the work. It's your own life force energy, and it moves through you, and anything that you have made that you've suppressed, any kind of negative experience in your life that has had a long-lasting effect upon you because it got internalized and stuffed down into your cells. And this can even be, epigenetics tells us, can be things that you inherited. and it gets stuffed in your cells, and this then it contracts and diminishes your life force energy. And so when you breathe this way, that increases your life force energy. It makes it stronger. And when it hits these contractions, these blockages, it just dissolves and integrates them. And it's like it's like healing on a whole new level. And yeah, so 340-220-1614. That's my number. You can call me. You can text me. So you could reach me by phone, sacredbreath108@gmail is my email address. Sacred Breath Freedom is my WordPress blog. Contact me there as well. You know, I know a lot of you would like to see some sort of program brought into a local government department or the schools or something. And you know, I had someone who was the head of a department here locally and really benefited greatly from the sessions. And so I said, hey, why don't you bring me into your workplace and let me do something for everybody? And they were like, oh, hell no, this is my competitive edge. I'm not sharing this with anyone, which I thought was kind of, and still do, was kind of messed up, you know. I think there's probably been a few people that have taken one or two sessions from me and then went off and offered it in various institutions here locally, which, you know, that's like watching a heart surgeon through the little window perform one or two operations, and then you're going to go off and call yourself a heart surgeon. I just hope they haven't done too much damage. So yeah, if you want the real deal, I'm a phone call away. And even though the experience with breathwork centers in California and New York and Samothrace and this advanced guy that Leonard went to see in India, is that the people in the local surrounding area for some reason don't take advantage of the availability of this person. I don't think it has to be that way. And like I say, I think I'm supposed to be here for some reason having to do with helping my local community. I'm kind of a radical in that respect. I believe in helping the local community. I believe in local autonomy and in the necessity for a local community to come together in a loving way, so that in this modern age, I think the threats that are out there to life, health and happiness can only be dealt with by a coherent local community. And so I'm here to do whatever I can to assist with that. And, you know, I don't do carpentry. I don't know how to raise food. I just know how to help people transform and become better, more loving, more capable human beings. And that's my gift. That's my offering. So if that sounds like something you want to take advantage of personally or institutionally, get a hold of me. So thank you. Thank you to Katia Boustani. She has a beautiful training center with very luxurious accommodations. So if you do have a chance to get to Greece, you definitely want to, check that out. Put that on your travel itinerary. And here, I can show you how to do the breathwork practices and these what we call spiritual purification with earth, air, water, and fire. So love you all. Enjoy your weekend. See you next week here on Children of the Sun, Friday, 12:30. And get out in nature. Keep your energy body clean. Talk to you all later. Namaste.